global happenings today. We communicate, we analyze global news. Stay tuned.
Hello beautiful people, welcome back to our channel. There's a lot involved at stake in Nigeria right now, with Nnamdi Kanu being sentenced to life imprisonment with 20 years and 5 years running concurrently, and of course with the US lawmakers and Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, insisting that the security situation in Nigeria must be improved, and with Nigerians anticipating the much dreaded all-time taxation come 2026, there seems to be a lot at stake. Now, as we speak, the US panel have decided to talk about the issue of insecurity in Nigeria, and I've spoken concerning the issue of Nnamdi Kanu. A lot of side talks here and there, but the question now is what is going on. A lot of Southeastern leaders are talking almost at the same time, because of course we're going to give full details on what they're saying and much later in the video, much later in another video. But this one, let's find out what the United States Congress panel sitting in Washington DC is saying concerning a lot of things going on in Nigeria concurrently. I do not know what the presidency is doing, but he really needs to stand strong in his assertions. Now, according to what we gathered, the United States Congress panel sitting in Washington DC at a public hearing on alleged Christian persecution in Nigeria has strongly condemned the life imprisonment handed to a leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, proscribed indigenous people of Biafra. Members of the panel described the ruling of the Federal High Court in Abuja as a transvesty of justice and an assault on international human rights norms. And the panel, made up of lawmakers, policy analysts, and human rights advocates, reviewed recent developments in Nigeria's internal security and the judicial handling of separatist-related cases. Reports that multiple speakers at the session expressed concern that the conviction of Kanu and the severity of the sentencing could further escalate tensions and deepen grievances among communities in Nigeria's southeast. During the hearing, several contributors questioned the legal basis applied in the trial that led to Kanu's conviction on terrorism charges. They argued that the proceedings appeared to fall short of globally recognized standards of due process, transparency, and judicial independency. Now, some panel members criticized the judgment delivered by the Federal High Court, asserting that the decision could undermine public trust in Nigerian judicial justice system. They further stated that a case of this nature required a higher level of judicial integrity and procedural clarity, given its implications for national peace, minority rights, and international relations. Now, according to briefings presented at the hearing, the U.S. congressional members and advocacy groups believe that the ruling may not align with Nigerian constitutional standards or international frameworks on fair trial rights. Several participants stressed that the perception of selective or politically influenced judicial processes could intensify domestic unrest and increase international scrutiny of Nigeria's democracy. Now, a notable development from the hearing was the suggestion that targeted sanctions could be considered against Justice Omotosho and other judicial actors involved in the case. Now, panel members hinted that sanctions may be applied under international legal that allow punitive measures against public officials engaged in human rights violations, suppression of civil liberties, or political persecution. Analysts who addressed the committee argued that such measures would not target Nigeria as a state, but individuals found responsible for judicial and administrative actions deemed inconsistent with internationally accepted norms. They noted that Congress has previously applied similar sanctions in other geopolitical contexts, especially when judicial rulings were believed to contribute to political repression or systemic violation of minority rights. The hearing was originally convened to examine claims of large-scale bringing down and systematic oppression of some communities in Nigeria, Witnesses presented data sourced from non-governmental organizations, international monitoring bodies, and faith-based organizations showing increased number of people who went down, displacement, and community-level insecurity in various states. Now, within the broader context, the panel linked the conviction of Nnamdi Kanu to what they called a pattern of state responses that disproportionately affect minority groups, ethnic activists, and political dissent. Contributors argue that the treatment of IPOB and its leaders must be evaluated within a broader national and humanitarian lens, rather than as purely legal or security matter. They submitted that the justice in this contest here has, they submitted that the justice responses to separatist tension could focus on reconciliation, peace building, civic integration, and confidence building rather than punitive judgment that could inflame political divisions. Now, policy specialists who briefed the committee highlighted weaknesses in Nigeria's counter-terrorism legislation, citing concerns about ambiguous language, broad definitions, and potential for misuse in cases involving activism, journalists, and political dissent. Now, some human rights monitors told the panel that the conviction of Nnamdi Kanu raises questions about how Nigeria applied anti-terrorism status, particularly when dealing with domestic political actors. They warned that if verdicts under such laws are found to lack due process, they could weaken legal legitimacy and erode public confidence in domestic institutions. They also emphasized that counter-terrorism trials must meet higher standards of evidence, judicial consistency, and procedural fairness to withstand international scrutiny. Now, several voices at the session called for an independent session of the trial proceedings that led to Kanu's conviction, and they also recommended that a neutral international legal review increased. The recommendation presented to the panel included the recommendations that was presented to the panel included a neutral international legal review, increased diplomatic engagement with Abuja, direct monitoring of future court sessions, formal requests for case documentation from the Nigerian judiciary, reporting to U.S. lawmakers on potential rights violation, speakers' national oversight may be necessary to preserve confidence in Nigeria's commitment to legal transparency and constitutional protection. Now, the issue has continued to attract international attention, especially among diaspora communities and civil society groups monitoring political development in Nigeria. Previous reports submitted to global institutions such as the United States and the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom has referenced alleged rights violations and concerns about political neutrality in handling separatist cases. At the Washington hearing, several participants noted that the trial of Kanu has evolved from a domestic dispute into a matter of global concern. They argued that the judgment of this significance must meet the highest standards of judicial credibility to avoid diplomatic fallout between Nigeria and its foreign partners. Analysts at the hearing indicated that if sanctions are imposed, they could have wider consequences for Nigeria's foreign policy engagement, including security cooperations, arms agreements, and diplomatic consultations. However, members of the panel also stressed that the United States seek ongoing cooperation with Nigeria, particularly in counter-terrorism, economic development, stabilization efforts across West Africa. They added that any decision taken will be based on documented evidence and formal policy review rather than rhetorical reactions. As the development gains attention in diplomatic and legal circles, policy observers expect Nigerian authorities to issue clarifications, respond formally to the claims, or provide additional details on the judicial proceedings followed in the conviction and sentencing of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, legal analysts within Nigeria have also indicated that Kanu's legal team may leverage the U.S. statement in seeking relief from appellate courts or international human rights bodies. monitoring of the situation is ongoing as advocacy groups continue to document proceedings and policy responses. Now, background: Nnamdi Kanu was convicted by the Federal High Court in Abuja on terrorism-related offenses after a prolonged legal process involving multiple hearings, appeals, and security challenges. His movement, IPOB, remains proscribed under Nigerian law, and the group has been accused by authorities of involvement in attacks on secessionist allegations that the organization has repeatedly denied. And of course, Nnamdi Kanu's legal team had actually stated that they're going to, going forward, they're going to also appeal this case. Well, it's definitely getting the global attention it deserves. Let's meet in that conversation with you.